On the front lines, knights are overwhelmed by a fierce assault, their only hope resting with the hero inside the Demon King's castle, a fortress pulsing with dark, chaotic energy. But inside, a female warrior lies defeated on the shattered floor, her will to fight still burning in her eyes. As her companion, the hero faces the throne alone. The Demon King smirks, radiating absolute confidence, but the battered hero stands defiant, calling out his name, Moriarty. Moriarty accepts the challenge, ready for the final clash, and the hero powers up for one last attack. Revealing this epic battle is just a drawing, created by a manhwa artist named Shui Ying Shui, and today his career is over, his boss firing him for the manhwa's terrible ratings, leaving him alone in the office to finish the final chapter outside. A strange purple storm rages, and lightning cracks across the city skyline, causing the lights in his office to flicker violently before plunging the room into total darkness. Defeated, Shui Ying Shui feels the world is against him, but then his drawing monitor suddenly flares to life, bathing him in an unnatural purple light, and he wonders why it's the only device still working. He muses, reaching out to touch the strange screen, and is instantly engulfed by a vortex of raw power. A desperate scream echoes through a surge of purple energy as a blinding flash warps reality itself, pulling a soul right out of a computer screen. His consciousness burns, dragged into the digital unknown, until a system message confirms the transfer is complete. He awakens above a chaotic battlefield, a world at war, where a soldier spots something plummeting from the sky. A human meteor aims straight for the Demon King's fortress. The impact is catastrophic, a blast of pure light and power, leaving a dazed man in the center of the crater. He thinks it's just a strange dream about his own story, but a voice from behind shatters his confusion. A warrior demands to know how a soldier named Ash caused such destruction. Second class, he realizes the words echoing in his mind as he becomes a character in his own manhwa. The world feels too real. The dread is palpable. This is no dream. Just then, a dark blade is drawn from the shadows, and the Demon King Moriarty turns his attention to the newcomer. A female warrior screams at Ash to move, telling him he's interrupting the hero's fight with the Demon King. Ash freezes, recognizing the scene from his own unfinished draft. He knows exactly what's supposed to happen next. The warrior, Tia, charges forward to her doom. But Ash moves faster, a red flash of instinct, throwing himself in the path of the Demon King's attack. A demonic king descends upon the battlefield, and Ash's comrades can only watch in horror, as the hero questions the dying man's sacrifice. But Ash confesses his body moved on its own, a feeling that he had to protect this person at all costs. With his final breath, he passes on his duty. The hero is left stunned by the sudden loss, and in this moment the story's threads converge, as the world itself seems to cry out in anguish, but a cold voice cuts through their grief, the Demon King gloating over the fallen hero. "My death is a step towards total conquest," the conqueror declares, but her words only seem to amuse him. "Your arrogance leads you to the same fate," the hero realizes, and the Demon King strikes without warning, sending her flying across the throne room, pinning her against the wall with brutal force, leaving her broken on the cold stone floor. He mocks the world's greatest mage for her weakness, while the hero finds himself completely paralyzed, his mind flashing back to a different life, a world where this Demon King was just a character he created, and now he faces his own creation, a question hanging in the air. His leg is severed, lying amidst the rubble, and he screams in pure, unadulterated agony. Moriarty holds him fast, mocking his luck as the pain becomes terrifyingly real, while the pink-haired commander pleads for the soldier's life, but the Demon Lord only scoffs, lifting him for the final blow, and the soldier knows exactly what comes next. Moriarty swings his massive blade down with killing intent, only to be blocked by a surge of brilliant purple energy, a sight that stuns the commander, who recognizes Ash's sword. And the soldier grits his teeth, barely surviving the attack. He remembers being thrown by the last strike, landing right beside the fallen hero's blade and seizing his chance. But Moriarty's power is too great, and the borrowed sword begins to crack. The Demon Lord sneers, sensing his opponent's luck has finally run dry, leaving the soldier with no plans, no hope, only the will to live. He refuses to be a pawn in the world that he himself created. A voice echoes as Ash's sword shatters into pieces. Moriarty's attack continues, a reflection caught in a falling shard, his eyes widening in absolute terror, but he's on the ground completely untouched. Because Moriarty's own sword is dissolving into light, the Demon Lord himself beginning to disintegrate, demanding an answer. Such a power cannot possibly exist in his world. He screams as his body crumbles away. And then, there is only silence, the soldier murmurs, his mind reeling from the impossible victory. As Tia the commander begins to fade away, pleading for help, He screams in his mind, desperate for an answer. He despairs, collapsing as the world he created shatters around him. Even the body of the fallen hero, Ash, dissolves into light, a desperate no echoing in the silent void. The entire Demon King city is breaking apart. When a system message suddenly appears before him, it explains that his forbidden words broke the story's rules, causing the entire world to begin its self-destruction. A 1-minute countdown to total annihilation begins, and a keyboard prompt offers a potential escape. A desperate press of a glowing key to log out, but nothing happens. The command is useless, and a horrifying realization dawns on him: he might already be dead. He looks down at his hands as they start to fade, his own form beginning to crumble, just like everything else. If he can't log out, what happens after he disappears? Rewrite his destiny. The thought cuts through his panic as the last fragments of his creation float in the void, and a new system prompt offers a strange command. It warns of complete death for souls whose bodies have perished, a fate of total oblivion that terrifies him to his core. But there's one last option, a full reset to save his soul. A single thought consumes him: change the comic's ratings. He remembers the reason for his death in the real world. A fate sealed the moment his boss fired him. If he can succeed here, that accident back in his office might never happen at all. The system explains, raise the comic's ratings, and he can be revived. An exit command is even available for the living, giving him a brief surge of hope. But he knows it can't be that easy, he thinks, his fears confirmed by the system. He knew there had to be a catch. He desperately asks how he can even see the ratings from inside. But the system only offers a single option: reset the comic. With renewed determination, he accepts the terms. A new message appears detailing the reset function. This world will be erased in 5 seconds, the announcement echoes as the timer hits 1 and the world dissolves into system tech. Reset completed flashes across his vision as a faint voice calls out for Ash. Before screaming his real name Shua, he jolts awake in chains. The phantom pain of his severed leg hits him hard. He awakens in a dark cave, chained but miraculously healed, as their rest is cut short by the cruel slave owner, Kran's Ricky. The older man tries to explain, bowing before the cruel master, but Ricky shows no mercy, brutally striking the man down, leaving him collapsed on the ground, defeated. The slave owner cruelly mocks his now unconscious victim, and Shui Yingshui screams out the man's name in horror, Uncle Ben. As punishment, Ricky doubles their workload for the day, threatening to sever their hands and feed them to beasts. The reality of his situation sinks in: his very life is on the line. He's forced to pick up a pickaxe and begin mining, striking the crystals, enslaved by a character he himself drew. The injured Uncle Ben apologizes for being a burden. But internally, Shui Yingshu is in agony, his body is breaking. He turns to Uncle Ben, asking about the hero, Ash. But the old man has never heard of anyone by that name. Shui Yingshu is stunned. How could anyone not know the story's hero? A system window suddenly appears, confirming the search results. There is no Ash. The main character of this world is now Shui Yingshu. The truth hits him like a lightning bolt. He's replaced his own hero. His entire perception of this world shatters in an instant, leaving Uncle Ben completely bewildered by his sudden breakdown. Shui Yingshu realizes the system window is invisible to everyone else. And just then, the system reveals it can read his very thoughts. He breaks the fourth wall, questioning the narration box, and a system window confirms his suspicion is correct. The horrifying truth sinks in. He's truly inside a comic, standing in a dark cave surrounded by glowing crystals. A fellow prisoner panics over the day's strange events, but Ash stares into a deep chasm that shouldn't exist yet, wondering if his actions are already altering the original story. A system window appears, warning him about his choices, that every action will change the story and affect its ratings. He understands he's the main character in a reset story, and he must make this new version more interesting than his original. He turns to the older prisoner, asking Uncle Ben to cover his escape, explaining his plan to jump into the chasm, promising that if he returns, their life of mining will be over. The old man thinks he's gone completely mad, but Ash ignores him, planting his foot for the leap, and jumps into the abyss as Uncle Ben screams his real name, Shui. A thrill of excitement courses through him as he plummets, becoming a small speck in the vast dark emptiness, his mind flashing back to the cover art of his own creation. He falls toward an underground mine of magic crystals, a bright light glowing from the bottom of the pit, pulling him into a swirling vortex of raw power. His vision blurs into a chaotic red haze before he finds himself submerged in strange, clear water. He's suspended inside a giant slime, just as he'd written, and the creature begins to dissolve around him, spitting him out onto the sticky cavern floor. He looks up and spots something familiar. his pickaxe, which somehow fell down with him. A perfect opportunity to mine the magic crystals, which a system message explains are a vital resource. These glowing gems power the world's magical tools and are crucial for the coming fight against the Demon King. But the fall has taken a toll on his body, and he suddenly senses an approaching danger, the three scavenger beasts from his original story. The hero Ash defeated them with brute strength, but Shui knows he's just a weak comic artist. He tries to keep his distance, running for his life, but one of the monsters lunges forward, its claws tearing through his clothes and skin. The force sends him crashing into the sharp crystals, leaving him wounded and cornered. The beasts loom over him, waiting for him to die, a trio of snarling scavengers ready to feast, but Shue's eyes burn with defiance, and he hurls something at the approaching monsters. The creatures are stunned by the strange attack just before one of them erupts in flames, revealing their secret weakness. A monstrous beast lunges forward, screaming for his death, its massive foot about to crush him completely. But Shue Yingshui looks up with cold defiance, confusing the two-headed creature with his lack of fear. The crystal cave seems to hum with energy. As Yue stands his ground against the monsters, he pants, remembering the one thing he has, a single piece of bread, a tempting but deadly trap for the starving. A system window suddenly appears, awarding him skill points, and his full status screen materializes before him. He stares in disbelief at his stats, a strength of -1. Another system message pops up, detecting a low-level system, and after allocating his points, the heavy pickaxe feels light as a pen. He boosts his agility by 4 points, his eyes gleaming with new power, realizing he can finally use magic in this world. His next objective is clear: mine all the magic crystals. He commands the system to unlock his backpack and begins to dig, tearing through the crystal walls with impossible speed. In a flash, the entire cavern is stripped bare, leaving him momentarily exhausted from the effort. A notification confirms 25 tons of crystals are stored, far more than Ash ever took, and a smirk crosses his face as he holds the pickaxe. With the crystals gone, he notices the cave is now filled with a soft blue light, and he reaches out to touch a strange, invisible barrier. A system message appears, revealing the barrier was made by himself back in the real world. He questions a barrier he doesn't remember creating and asks the system to remove it, which it does instantly. He steps into the now open cavern, seeing nothing special, until a sudden terror grips him. As a colossal monster roars from the shadows, he recognizes it as the Subterranean King, a villain he threw in the trash. The system explains that scrap drafts don't disappear. They're just sealed away where they were first drawn. A new task appears before him: kill the Subterranean King. The command leaves him utterly stunned. He knows this creature was designed to be unbeatable at this point. But the system warns him, failure will tank the comic's ratings. The word death flashes in his mind, the stakes becoming terrifyingly clear. The monster lets out a deafening roar, and Shuai Yingxua stares up in absolute horror. He remembers designing it with ridiculous strength and agility, its deadliest weapon being a horn that fires magic lasers. A creation he now deeply regrets. The beast's horn begins to glow with a menacing red light, unleashing a devastating energy blast. The beam tears through the cavern with explosive force, leaving a trail of fire and molten rock in its wake. The very ground shatters under the immense power, sending Shuai Yingxua flying backward. He lands, facing the impossible foe that now looms over him. The Subterranean King's giant hand closes around him, and Shui screams in absolute agony as the pressure builds his ribs, snapping under the immense force. A horrifying thought strikes him: this is revenge from a deleted character. He's certain that this is the end, desperately calling out to the administrator for another reset. But then, a new idea sparks in his mind, and he commands the system to use all 25 tons of his crystals, weaponizing them against the giant beast. His inventory empties, unleashing a torrent of magic crystals, which rain down, pelting the monster's massive form. Its grip loosens, sending Shui plummeting once again, realizing the fall from this height will be fatal. He focuses his energy, aiming for a massive crystal below, swinging his pickaxe to alter his trajectory, landing on the mountain of crystals he just unleashed. He wonders if it's over, but the system is silent, and the Subterranean King rises, enraged by the attack. Utterly defeated, Shui knows he's dead this time. The beast lets out a deafening roar. But back in the mines, an interrogation begins. Uncle Bin is chained to a post, a fire burning beside him, as a purple-haired overseer offers a quick death for Shui's location. But Uncle Bin stays silent, determined to protect Shui's escape route, defiantly telling his interrogator to get lost. The overseer places his hand on Uncle Bin's chest, unleashing a torrent of purple lightning, and under the agonizing torture, Uncle Ben finally breaks. The purple-haired villain smirks, demanding the information, but instead gets a final defiant insult about his hair. The overseer's face twists in pure fury, as he prepares a killing blow, screaming for the slave's death, launching his electrified fist forward. But the attack is suddenly stopped. Caught by an unexpected arrival, Shua Ying Shui, he stands before Uncle Ben, apologizing for being late, as the overseer mocks him for walking right into a trap. The villain threatens a gruesome punishment, but Shui just smirks, remembering how readers hated this character. Online comments confirm the villain was widely seen as a joke, and Shui now understands their complaints. Uncle Ben watches in absolute terror as the overseer grabs the chains binding Shui. He asks Shui if he knows why he chose electricity magic, revealing its cruel effectiveness on chained prisoners. A massive current surges through the metal links, engulfing Shui in a blinding flash of purple energy. Uncle Ben screams his name, certain he's been killed, but a silhouette emerges from the smoke, revealing Shui completely unharmed by the blast. He reflects on his newfound power, remembering the beast's terrifying roar and the moment he thought he was out of options. A desperate plan formed in an instant as the subterranean king lunged for the kill. He'd been completely out of moves until the system appeared, and a single stat gave him an idea. He dodged the crushing blow, using the monster's own body as a ramp. He'd purposely added 1 point to his mana. Knowing there was a single spell he could use, a simple but powerful incantation. Known only as the explosion spell, he braced himself on the cavern floor as the beast prepared another deadly attack. With his pickaxe, he pried a crystal loose. Believing he could pull it off from this distance, he channeled his single mana point into the shard, aiming for the gem on the monster's forehead. The resulting blast was absolutely devastating, and a system message confirmed his victory. He was awarded 50 skill points for the kill, along with a one-time full recovery heal. Back in the present, Shui stands renewed, realizing he's now stronger than his own protagonist. Shui's eyes glow with confidence. This is way too easy. He surges forward, surrounded by an aura of raw power, shattering the overseer's hands with a single brutal motion. Richie screams in agony, vowing to kill him for the insult, but Shui's fist is already flying toward his face, sending the man soaring backward with a devastating impact. The other miners can only stare in disbelief, stunned that he defeated Richie and his entire team with one punch. But a sudden light flashes from Shui's neck as his magical slave collar activates, chains glowing. Richie, beaten on the ground, begins to laugh maniacally, gloating that the slave contract binds Shui to him forever. Back in the present, Shui stands beside the captive Uncle Ben and simply begins to walk away from the red-haired woman. He stops before a solid rock wall, ignoring her demands, and smashes his fist right through the stone, leaving Richie, the purple-haired overseer, utterly speechless. Inside the wall is a hidden stash of papers. The slave contracts. Shui smirks, revealing he knew its location because he's the author, recalling how the hero Ash had to torture Richie for this information. He grabs a nearby torch from its sconce and tosses it onto the pile of contracts, setting them ablaze. Standing before the raging fire, he makes an announcement, declaring that they are no longer slaves. The entire mine erupts in a massive cheer of freedom and relief. Shui recalls his plan for the freed miners, with Uncle Ben reluctantly chosen as the new leader. Unlike the original story's violent uprising, Shui wonders if his own path was better than Ash's. He and the others finally step out of the darkness, emerging into a world with a sealed evil looming overhead. A world he knows is dangerously different from his comic. To understand his new reality, he calls up his status panel, which reveals he earned 50 skill points for his impossible victory. But he still feels like he's missing crucial information until he notices a second page on the system screen, where the system explains his victory impressed the readers. A confident smirk crosses his face. His scrapped idea was a success. A new window appears, revealing an author's skill chart, with logout and reset already available. He realizes that by growing his comic's popularity, he can become all-powerful. His next move is clear. Follow Ash's path to the Wind Kingdom's army, because he's going there to meet his female lead. Princess Tia, the princess herself, watches over the assembled troops, and gaining her trust is the cornerstone of his entire plan. But Shui knows there's a problem. The current Tia is not the hardened warrior she's destined to become. Still, he has advantages. Ash never did new skills and a new strategy to change the future. He won't wait for the Demon King, he'll kill him before he's even free. Shui smirks, anticipating a world without its final boss. The scene shifts to another location, the royal children seeking an audience at the Wind Kingdom's palace. They enter the grand throne room permitted by the king. King Altair asks who will attend the enlistment ceremony in 2 days. Prince Bellet, Tia's older brother, claims he'll be busy fighting beasts. The younger prince, Cody, also makes an excuse, pushing the duty onto Tia. His words infuriate the princess, who glares back at him. She steps forward, addressing her father directly, and Princess Tia defiantly declares she will not go. The narration reveals the true danger. The Demon King's seal is about to break. This impending release has made monsters across the world restless, a threat the Wind Kingdom has officially rated as a calamity. The king stands resolute against the coming storm. To combat this, the kingdom has recruited volunteers, and Shui is among them. A massive fleet of flying ships awaits the new soldier. A middle-rank commander named Francis addresses the troops, telling the low-born recruits this is their one chance for glory. Shui recalls writing Francis as a cruel man who kills subordinates for defiance. He decides to take the initiative, hoping to gain Tia's attention. Commander Francis challenges the soldiers to board if they don't fear death. The entire army erupts in a deafening cheer as a countdown for departure blares over a loudspeaker. At 1, the massive ship lifts off from the water, taking to the sky. Aboard the vessel, Shui marvels at the flying ship he once only drew. A commander addresses the new military recruits, explaining they'll be split into teams of 4. The recruits board a massive airship ready for duty. An officer calls out a name from a list, Shui Yingshui. Shui steps forward, confirming his identity. A smug captain informs him he's now part of his team. Shui agrees, knowing exactly what's happening. He realizes following Ash's path creates the same outcomes, allowing him to follow the plot but improve it. The captain issues a thinly veiled threat, as Shui recalls how readers hated the original hero's weakness. Suddenly, the system issues a new task, become their boss. A confident smirk crosses his face. This is perfect, but a new condition appears. He has only 10 seconds. The other knights demand his attention, and with the timer ticking down, Shui desperately begs them. They mock his pathetic attempt at begging, so he just punches all 3 of them off the deck. He immediately realizes his mistake, forgetting they were on a flying ship. But the system declares the task complete. He's awarded 10 skill points for his success, and gains 13 positive reader reviews. An announcement calls all recruits to the deck, where the newly loyal Mark brothers now admire their new boss. A stern commander demands an explanation for the commotion, spotting a fist-shaped dent on a soldier's armor, and Shui panics, knowing this could ruin his plans. But before he can confess, his comrades take the blame, a loyalty he himself wrote into their characters. The commander smirks, deciding they'll fight to the death for entertainment, forcing Shui to step forward and intervene, stopping the man's fist with his own. The commander offers him a choice of gruesome deaths, but Shui issues a formal challenge instead, a duel in the arena. His friends can only stare in disbelief at his reckless move, while the commander, Francis, accepts the offer with a sinister grin. Shui's plan is set, but he still doubts if he can win. Meanwhile, the enlistment ceremony begins in the city. Its main event held in the battle arena of the Wind Kingdom, a massive coliseum looms over the city, ready for the spectacle. Inside, Shui knows the power gap is huge, but he has to try, as he finally lays eyes on Princess Tia in the stands. She addresses the crowd, welcoming the new recruits, but a painful memory flashes through her mind, a memory of why she never wanted to attend. In a flashback, she refuses her father's command to go, but the king insists it is her royal duty. Tia tries to protest, her face filled with dread, but her father dismisses her without another word. Princess Tia finishes her speech to the cheering troops, believing her duty here is finally over. But a mustached knight suddenly calls out to her, reporting a soldier for insubordination, Shui Yingshui. The knight, Sir Francis, proposes a public duel to make an example of him, but Tia scoffs at the idea, seeing it as a pointless display. Shui anticipated this, knowing the princess just wants to leave. She prepares to depart, her mind already elsewhere, but Shui calls out, feigning disappointment at the missed opportunity. He then mentions 2 secret assignments, catching her off guard, information a mere recruit shouldn't possibly know. He presses his advantage, questioning why she won't stay. Knowing his female lead won't back down from a challenge, he then delivers a calculated insult, calling it better than being a useless princess. The blatant disrespect stuns Sir Francis, who now wonders if this recruit is a fool or something more. Enraged, Princess Tia grants his wish for a duel, and Shui knows his gamble paid off perfectly. The command is given to enter the arena, and Shui surges forward to face his opponent. A shimmering magical barrier suddenly surrounds them, a trap Sir Francis begins to explain. But Shui already knows its purpose, stating they're locked in until one of them falls. Inside the shimmering barrier, the duel begins. Sir Francis lunges forward with blinding speed, and their swords meet in a cataclysmic clash. Shui's hand nearly shatters from the impact, but he mocks his opponent's boast. Francis seethes, suspecting the recruit is hiding his true power. A massive shockwave erupts from their collision, sending both fighters skidding backward. The soldiers are stunned. Shui has the strength of a captain. Cheers erupt from the crowd, who now hope for an upset. Sir Francis glares, his pride wounded. He's furious. The recruits admire this trash and vows to kill them all. But Shui calmly tells him he won't get the chance, declaring he'll be the only one walking out of this barrier. The battle rages on, with Shui sent flying across the arena floor. He admits the gap in experience is immense, but resolves to endure no matter the cost. Francis looms over him, taunting his resilience. Showa rises, turning the insult back on the commander. Enraged, Francis charges forward, screaming for him to die. Showa desperately tries to recall his own writing to predict the attack. Flashing back to his life as an author playing a video game, he remembers losing a match in a fighting game, and how a cool knight inspired him to give Francis a ranged attack. Back in the present, a confident smirk crosses Shui's face. Francis unleashes a powerful sword wave, sending his opponent flying. Sir Francis wonders how the recruit keeps dodging his attacks, as Shui parries another devastating blow, shattering the arena floor. Knowing he's too weak to even scratch the commander's armor, he taunts Francis, calling him less capable than he seems, and the insult fills the commander's eyes with rage. Francis unleashes a furious, sweeping strike, sending Shui flying across the arena floor. Shui writhes in pain, unable to dodge every attack despite his knowledge, while Francis celebrates finally landing a hit. The commander looms over him, mocking his weakness after all his talk, then turns to the crowd to gloat about his victory. But Shui slams his fist into the ground, a new power surging, and his loyal comrades cry out his name in fear. Francis basks in the glory. Sure, this will boost his rank, but then questions why the barrier hasn't opened yet. Because, behind him, Shui is back on his feet and charging. The soldiers gasp in disbelief. Their boss isn't dead. Shui stands tall, admitting that was a dangerously close call. Leaving Francis stunned by his sudden burst of strength, Shui reveals his secret. He had 20 unused skill points, and he just poured them all into his strength stat. He then addresses the crowd, asking them to cheer him on. As a spectator remarks on his surprising power, Shui smirks, knowing this moment is the key to his victory. Recalling his plan to let Francis underestimate him from the start, Shui reveals his plan. Francis's pride will make him go berserk, and one of the Mark brothers taunts the commander from outside the arena, a perfectly timed distraction to fuel his rage, and Francis takes the bait, stomping forward furiously, shattering the magical barrier in a blind fury. But the arena's defenses activate instantly, ensnaring the commander in energy tethers, creating the perfect opening for Shui to strike. He leaps forward with his sword drawn, landing a final decisive blow on the immobilized commander. The entire crowd stares in utter disbelief. As an announcement declares the battle is over, Shui is the winner. He reflects on this unexpected outcome, while the system awards him the title of strongest new recruit and 30 skill points. Suddenly, a massive hologram of the king appears over the arena, and Princess Tia looks on in shock, completely caught off guard. King Altair praises the new generation's talent, explaining the original plan was to send them as reinforcements. He reveals the frontline armies are overwhelmed by relentless monsters, and with Francis gone, he appoints Shui as the new temporary commander. But Shui politely declines the position, prompting an enraged Princess Tia to volunteer herself, refusing to be called useless. Shui immediately endorses her as a suitable leader, and with newfound resolve, Tia accepts the challenge, promising not to fail. The king makes it official, then gives Shui a new mission: protect the princess. With the recruitment ceremony officially over, Princess Tia demands to know who Shui really is, but he simply claims to be a mere minor. She declares that regardless of his motives, she owes him a favor, promising to see him on the battlefield tomorrow. Shui smirks, knowing his female lead's personality all too well. She's a sore loser who must forge her own path later that night, under a quiet moon. Shui assesses his own stats, realizing he's still too weak. He asks his new subordinates for a battle report, and they discover their next mission involves fighting the undead. But Shui knows the true threat isn't the monsters, it's the other kingdoms pretending to help, all of them plotting to steal the necromancer's magic stone. He decides his new priority is to secure that stone for himself. He begins to write down a detailed plan, handing a list of necessary supplies to his loyal crew. They question the late-night errand, but he orders them to go. Meanwhile, on a stormy battlefield far away, a powerful prince unleashes a devastating sword art, tearing through legions of skeletal soldiers, carving a massive path through the undead army. A commander from the Steam Kingdom suggests Prince Lodz should rest, but the prince refuses, seeing through their false concern. The commander, Nold, smirks, challenging him to a fair competition for the prize. The next day, the army marches into a desolate wasteland, arriving at the entrance to a massive skull cave, the dreaded Skeletal Canyon. Two lieutenants advise Princess Tia to stay back, reminding her she's never fought in a real battle. but Tia refuses, ordering the army to proceed. Shua watches, knowing her desire to prove herself will be dangerous and that he'll have to protect her. He's too weak to face the Skeleton King alone, so his plan is to level up by fighting alongside the others. Inside the cavern, Tia rushes ahead of the group, determined not to be seen as a burden. Shua tries to remember the dungeon's layout from his story, when a skeletal warrior lunges from the shadows, screaming for the intruders to die. Shu explains that only the Necromancer's stone can truly kill the undead, but Tia scoffs, unleashing a powerful freezing spell. The skeleton is instantly encased in a rune of solid ice. Her eyes glow with power as she glares at Shui, who panics, realizing he's made her angry. The blast of cold energy rushes past the two lieutenants, who stare in shock as the frozen skeleton shatters. The rest of the vanguard is stopped by a wall of ice. Tia glares, telling them not to look down on her. She then thanks Shui, but questions how he knows secrets that she, a princess, does not. Shui looks on with a bead of sweat as Princess Tia orders them to press forward into the dark cavern. A system notification confirms they've earned points for the kills, but suddenly, skeletal hands erupt from the ground, and Jue shouts a desperate warning to the princess. Tia unleashes her power, her sword glowing with icy energy, firing a brilliant blast of magic into the horde. A wave of ice instantly freezes the entire cavern, trapping the undead army in a crystalline prison. Shua complements her power, urging everyone to keep moving. They venture deeper into the twisting, ominous tunnels, until one of the soldiers points out a fork in the road. Princess Tia immediately declares they should go left, explaining she recognizes the signs of her brother's battle, but Shua suggests they split up, offering to go left with the princess. And Tia glares at him with deep suspicion. She questions how a mere recruit knows about the Necromancer's stone, prompting one of the soldiers to angrily question his motives. Tia changes her mind, deciding she and Shui will take the right path instead. Shui smirks, his plan to pique her curiosity a success, knowing they must split up to face the skeleton general. The two groups head down their separate tunnels, and Shui notes the strange absence of monsters. He points out the empty caverns lining the walls, explaining the undead are created from human corpses by the Skeleton King. Shui deduces the caverns are empty because the undead army has moved out, and Princess Tia questions if he's admitting they took a wrong turn. She accuses him of avoiding battle with his insider knowledge, noting he always seems to know things others don't. Tia calls him out for being too calm, while Shui panics internally. Suddenly, a glowing purple doorway appears in the stone wall, and a skeletal leg steps through the portal. A skeleton janitor emerges, ready to clean the empty caverns, but it turns and spots the two intruders. The skeleton panics, screaming about the presence of humans, which is exactly what Shui was waiting for. The skeleton tries to escape through a newly opened portal, but Shui leaps forward to stop it. He dives headfirst into the swirling vortex, and the soldiers outside realize their leaders have vanished. An order is given to report this to Lieutenant Dolores. Immediately, a painful cry echoes from the other side as Princess Tia lands hard. Wondering where they are, she sees Shui with the skeleton and warns them to stay back. But the skeleton begs for its life, claiming to be a simple cleaner. Shui calmly reassures the creature they won't harm it, offering help instead, knowing this is just an extra he designed. He flashes back to writing his story, creating low-rank undead servants, who can only navigate through secret tunnels on their level. The skeleton pleads for freedom, trapped for 135 years and unable to die. Shui cringes at his own cheesy dialogue, but he clarifies his one condition for helping her escape. Meanwhile, in a dark, rocky passage, a powerful shockwave shatters the cavern walls. A warrior realizes they are hopelessly outmatched, facing a formidable skeleton general mini-boss. The undead knight stands alone against a line of soldiers, but their leader roars in defiance. He charges, clashing against the general's massive shield, and is instantly thrown back by a wave of force. The warrior slams into the wall, cursing the impenetrable defense. A different soldier orders the magicians to fire, who raise their staves and channel dark energy. A beam of magic shoots toward the skeleton general, impacting the shield in a blinding flash. The soldier celebrates their seemingly successful attack, only to see the general emerge completely unscathed. He wonders why the undead's shield seems so familiar. Recalling a legend of a general famed for his defense, this general possessed an impenetrable shield and would simply outlast his opponents. The soldier realizes the Skeleton King must have resurrected him, leaving him to wonder how they could possibly win. Suddenly, a faint glow appears from the cliffs above, revealing Shui and Princess Tia watching the battle unfold. Shui confirms their teleport was a success, while the skeleton janitor panics, regretting its deal. The scene flashes back 3 minutes earlier. Shui begins to lay out his plan, revealing the skeleton general was once a man named Monty, famed for his impenetrable shield. Princess Tia is stunned by his insider knowledge yet again, but Shui ignores her, explaining the only way to win is as a pincer attack. He then asks the skeleton janitor its name, which is Wally. Back in the present, a soldier charges the general with a war cry. But his weapon is instantly deflected by the shield's magic. The soldier curses, his attack completely useless. Shui sees his opening, yelling for the princess to strike now. Annoyed at taking orders, Tia still unleashes a powerful freezing spell. The blast of ice magic envelops the skeleton general, freezing its legs solid. With the general immobilized, Shui lunges forward, vaulting over the now frozen shield arm. The general's impenetrable shield is trapped in a block of ice. One of the soldiers stares in complete disbelief as the leader realizes Shui used them as bait for a sneak attack. Shui shouts for them to fight now that the shield is down. The rest of the soldiers finally charge into the fray, but the skeleton general's eyes begin to glow ominously, and Shui senses that something is terribly wrong. He spots a glowing green gem on the general's sword, flashing back to when he wrote the story, deciding to remove a paralysis stone from the design. Shui panics, realizing this monster should have been deleted. As the skeleton general unleashes a furious attack, a soldier screams, caught in the green energy, while another is cut down instantly and a third falls to the blade. The general stands over the defeated soldiers. Princess Tia curses from above, watching her troops get slaughtered. She decides she has to help them, but the skeleton janitor grabs her arm, warning her not to be reckless. He reminds her she's a mage and will lose a direct fight. The janitor panics about being discovered. When a skeletal foot suddenly pins Shui to the ground, he's completely paralyzed, staring up at the general. Shui frantically questions why a deleted monster is here, but the system simply replies, "Reason unknown." The general states the paralysis will last 1 minute, raising its glowing sword for the final blow. Shui can only watch in terror until a blast of ice magic flies past him. The skeleton janitor reminds Tia of her promise, stepping forward, and is instantly frozen solid by her spell. Encased in ice, he begs her to take him with her if she escapes. A beam of purple energy shoots from the frozen skeleton, striking the gem on Princess Tia's crown. The frozen form of the skeleton janitor lies on the cavern floor as a soldier gasps, realizing he can finally move again. A lesser skeleton warrior immediately lunges to attack him, its glowing eyes fixed on its target. The sound of a desperate struggle rings out as the undead creature overpowers the human soldier. Shui watches the chaos unfold, his expression grim, thinking to himself how close that was. A system window confirms his special skill is active, a body-strengthening ability that makes him invincible for 10 seconds. Surrounded by a golden aura, he intercepts the skeleton's attack, then shouts Princess Tia's name in desperation. She swoops down from above, her weapon blazing with blue light, unleashing a powerful blast of ice magic. The entire skeleton general is instantly trapped in a massive crystal. One of the soldiers sighs, relieved the battle is finally over, but Shui's eyes dart to the side, sensing something is off. He sees Princess Tia standing over the frozen janitor and asks why she looks so sad after they've won. She explains what the janitor Wally told her before being frozen. He and his best friend were killed when bandits massacred their village, but the Skeleton King resurrected him as an undead cleaner. Tia reveals Wally's only wish was to go home, but he sacrificed himself to save her. Shui knows her royal ice magic is an unbreakable seal, making Wally's fate permanent. He decides to cheer her up, even if he can't explain everything. Shu promises he can revive someone if they defeat the king, and as Tia reels from his impossible knowledge, a glowing portal opens in the cavern wall. Shui confidently reaffirms his promise to the princess. Taking command, Tia orders everyone through the gateway. Arriving on the second floor of the skeletal canyon, the army marches through a new passage, carrying heavy cargo. As soldiers complain about hauling the frozen general, Princess Tia looks on, a bead of sweat on her face. When a terrifying screech echoes from the darkness above, a massive skeletal dragon emerges from the shadows, its bones rattling as it descends upon them. The creature lands on a high cliff, its claws digging into the rock, and its single red eye glows with malevolent power. A soldier screams in pure terror, recognizing the beast, but Shui was expecting this all along. He identifies it as the Bone Dragon, the floor's mini-boss. The dragon unleashes a devastating blast of energy from its maw, a brilliant blue beam tearing through the canyon. The attack leaves a trail of destruction in its wake, as the other squad of soldiers watches from a cliff above. Shui looks on, worried about something else entirely. Princess Tia steps forward, preparing a defensive spell, and a massive wall of ice erupts to block the dragon's breath. The other squad's leader sees an opening, ordering his mages to fire. The mages unleash a volley of dark magic, their leader confident this will end the fight, but his expression twists into pure shock. The bone dragon moves in a blur of motion, easily dodging their coordinated attack. Princess Tia desperately asks Shui for a plan, and he orders his own soldiers to bring out a special item. The men grin, ready to finally use their secret weapon. The scene flashes back to the army treasury, where 3 soldiers stood before a massive vault. They recall Shui's orders to retrieve gold magic stones for a specific monster. One of them holds a large, brilliant gold crystal. Back in the present, Shuar orders them to throw the stones into the pit, and the soldiers hurl the glowing treasures into the chasm. The bone dragon's glowing eye immediately locks onto the bait, diving down with incredible speed. A system window explains dragons are naturally greedy, as the beast chases the glittering stones to the canyon floor. They are drawn to anything that shines, and Shui knew this one was starved for treasure after years of confinement. The gold magic stones were an irresistible lure. A hand glows with power, preparing to strike, when a shard of ice suddenly lands near Shui. The other squad's leader looks around, confused why the next floor hasn't opened. Shui's eyes widen in horror, sensing a terrible new threat, but a second bone dragon emerges from the shadows, and Shui realizes the game's settings have been restored. The new dragon prepares to unleash its own devastating attack, but Shui is out of the magic stones he needs to counter it. The beast fires a massive beam of energy straight towards the other squad, and Shui screams a warning. The blast collides with a newly formed barrier, a massive ice wall summoned by Princess Tia. She strains, pouring all her magic into the defense. The other squad's leader cheers, mocking the dragon's failed attack. His second-in-command notes his sudden change of heart, admitting that while Tia is impressive, Shui is on another level. His sword begins to glow with a brilliant light, as he realizes the first dragon is reassembling itself. He yells for Tia to freeze the regenerating bones, but she's pinned down, holding back the other dragon's assault. The reassembling dragon is just a distraction, a delay tactic, but it's one that's working perfectly. Shui panics, trapped with no good option. Suddenly, a small skeletal creature takes flight, and he remembers he has one last trick to play. He orders everyone to link hands, confusing the soldiers. He looks to Tia, asking for her trust. She stares back, her resolve wavering for a moment. Then, Shui activates his ultimate cheat, invisibility. A second bone dragon materializes from thin air, its red eye glowing with the same malevolence as it faces off against the first one. The new dragon lands with a heavy thud, looking utterly confused by the army before it. Shui smirks, his plan a success, having used a skill to make the entire army invisible. He tells Tia they only have 20 seconds to defeat them both. She questions his risky strategy, while the first dragon roars in confusion, finally spotting its unexpected twin. The soldiers realize Tia's ice wall is acting as a mirror, and Shui knows they just need an opening to strike. Princess Tia orders her troops to prepare for a single decisive blow. The soldiers roar in agreement, ready for her command. With a determined glare, she gives the order to attack. The army charges as a blast of magic hits one of the dragons, while Tia unleashes her limitless ice wall, trapping the beast in a massive prison of ice. Shui cheers, believing they've taken one down, but his celebration is cut short. A terrible cracking sound echoes through the canyon as the giant ice wall begins to shatter. The second bone dragon bursts free from the ice, enraged, and Shui realizes it's furious that they attacked its partner. The other squad's leader charges forward with a war cry, leaping to strike the dragon, but it vanishes in a blur. He lands in confusion, wondering where the beast went. When a skeletal wing suddenly appears behind him, a female soldier screams his name as the dragon's tail whips around him, cursing as the creature soars into the air with its captive. The dragon looms over the helpless soldier as he falls, slamming him into the ground with brutal force. Another soldier is sent flying from the impact, his weapon lost. A soldier screams in frustration, unable to fight its incredible speed. Shui explains the dragon's body is weak, but its speed is lethal. Just as a system window displaying his stats appears before him, he's stunned, wondering when his attributes increased. The bone dragon dives again, a streak of red light, and a pink-haired soldier shouts a warning as it targets Shui. But Shui simply smirks, completely unafraid. The female soldier stares in disbelief at his calm expression. The dragon crashes into the ground where he stood, emerging from the dust with a menacing red aura. Its single eye glows with intense power, only to find Shui standing right behind it, untouched. Shui calmly asks if the dragon is surprised, flashing back to when he planned his canyon strategy. He recalls earning skill points and boosting his agility, certain it was the key. With a focused gaze, he prepares to face the beast. Shui's blade deflects the dragon's tail, a move so fast it leaves the soldier stunned. His own men erupt in cheers for their incredible boss, while Tia, amazed, prepares to finish the fight herself. But Shue holds up a hand, telling her to wait, explaining the dragon won't regenerate and he wants to negotiate. The princess stares in disbelief at his absurd proposal, as Shue kneels before the shattered beast, telling it the fight is over. He offers a choice: submit to him or be frozen solid. A massive portal to the next floor opens, and Shue smirks, thanking his new ally, the bone dragon. The creature now stands before him, tamed and obedient. The other soldiers can't believe the monster is now his pet, and Shue asks to borrow its horn for the final battle. Princess Tia finally asks why he's collecting boss items, demanding he stop withholding information from her. He realizes he can't keep his secrets any longer, agreeing to tell them everything, but not his source. Shue reveals the boss parts are the keys to defeating the Skeleton King. The female soldier asks if victory is impossible without them, and he confirms it, explaining this is why Prince Lauds is trapped. The portal is a one-way trip with no return, trapping anyone who enters without the keys to become the king's puppets. He looks at his team with grim certainty, declaring the canyon is a trap. The horn sword glows in his hand as the terrible truth sinks in. A female soldier confronts Shue, accusing him of withholding information, but he counters that no one would have listened to a mere newbie before Princess Tia cuts them off, ordering everyone to advance. The army stands before a crackling purple portal to the next floor and are pulled into the swirling vortex of energy. They emerge into a new area, and Tia immediately complains about the heat. A narrow stone path surrounded by a sea of lava. One of the soldiers shouts, pointing over the edge, where countless skeleton monsters are crawling up the cliff face. A soldier is grabbed and dragged into the lava, screaming as he burns. Princess Tia declares she'll freeze the lava, her staff glowing with power, unleashing a massive blast of ice magic, but it shatters instantly against the intense heat. Shue explains this is the lava of the fire god, Sam, which she can't freeze, telling her to ice the cliff walls instead to stop the skeletons. Tia is shocked that he knows so much about her own magic, but she follows his command, and the skeletons lose their grip, falling back. The army carefully makes its way across the narrow bridge, as the soldiers speculate about the god of fire. Shue knows this is a test for Tia, while a new enemy watches with a wicked smile, as a flaming, robed being appears, thrilled to meet the heir of the god of ice. It says the only way to stop the undead is to freeze them or refine them completely, unleashing a massive pillar of fire from the lava below. The blast engulfs the path in a fiery explosion as a soldier screams for the princess. And when the smoke clears, a chunk of the path is gone and she has vanished. A soldier peers over the canyon's edge in disbelief, his eyes widening in absolute shock, as a massive golden skeletal dragon rises from the depths. Shu and Princess Tia are riding on its back, flying into battle with determined expressions. A hooded mage confronts them, questioning the dragon's change of allegiance. The massive beast seems to sweat, intimidated by the mage, but Shue urges Tia to focus on their goal of defeating the Skeleton King. Her resolve hardens, ready for the fight ahead. The scene flashes back to a red-robed mage who has waited half a century for this duel. His blue-robed opponent argues their magic was never meant for harming each other, but the red mage dismisses his words and prepares a fire spell. This single battle would forever alter their disciples' destinies. A group of young students, including a pink-haired girl, cheer for their master. A rival student scoffs, calling their master a coward, and declares his own master, the god of fire, will be victorious. The young girl glares back, vowing to prove him wrong. At the beginning of the fight, their powers were perfectly matched as fire and ice magic collided in a brilliant explosion. But before long, the god of fire began to lose ground. Just as he was about to strike the final blow, the god of ice hesitated. A moment of mercy that the god of fire immediately noticed, and he seized the opportunity to kill his opponent. In this arena, the only winner is the one left standing. The memory of that betrayal burns in the young girl's eyes. A flashback reveals Tia's past trauma, a time when she lost her confidence in the battle arena. And ironically, the god of fire also met his end here, challenging the Skeleton King in this very canyon, and was never seen again. Back in the present, Shue and Tia ride the bone dragon. As a fiery blast erupts from below, Shue confronts Tia about her hesitation. Knowing her true motivation wasn't courage, but anger, her stunned expression confirms his words. The enemy mage watches them, confused by their conversation, as Shue tells her to channel that fury into strength. He reminds her of the traitors who abandoned her, and the prideful who looked down on her, but the mage loses his patience, unleashing a massive fireball. The fiery orb hurtles towards them, aimed directly at the bone dragon they're riding. Shue yells for Tia to finally unleash her power, his eyes filled with fierce determination. Tia's own eyes glow with brilliant blue light, her body crackling with immense energy as her magic collides with the fireball in a blinding flash. They stand firm against the magical explosion, and Shue orders their skeletal mount to move. The blast careens past them, heading for the soldiers below. Shui leaps from the dragon's back, racing to intercept the massive fireball, unleashing a powerful slash of his own and deflecting the fiery attack just in time. The soldiers watch in awe as the blast hits the canyon wall, while Shui lands safely back on their skeletal mount. But the enemy mage taunts them, summoning even more fireballs, unleashing a volley of fire upon the soldiers below. Suddenly, an army of enemy magicians appears, combining their power to create a massive defensive shield. A soldier panics, knowing their barrier won't last long, and just as he fears, the magical shield shatters. The soldiers are consumed by the fiery onslaught, their screams echoing through the canyon. Tia watches in horror, blaming herself for the carnage, as her past trauma resurfaces, demanding her master fight. He questions why she's so eager for him to battle the god of fire, but her youthful excitement is undeniable. The duel was set in the grand arena, and after her master's defeat, she was racked with guilt. The dying god of ice told her it wasn't her fault, leaving her alone with her grief and regret. Haunted by his final words, she weeps in solitude, until she notices a letter on the floor. A letter from the god of fire himself. A flashback to a young Tia, her eyes filled with tears, as she holds a glowing crystal, the fire spirit. She had once tried to learn forbidden magic, unleashing a powerful spell called Endless Frost. But the forbidden art backfired, trapping her in ice. Her master, the god of ice, intervened just in time. Shattering the spell and saving her life, he then gave her the glowing pendant, a charm to help her heal from the backlash. But she never knew he traded his own life for it, a truth that haunts her. Back in the present, the enemy mage laughs maniacally, but Tia prepares to cast Endless Frost once more. The mage recognizes her as the girl who used forbidden arts, and she glares back, ready for this long-awaited confrontation. Shui watches intently, knowing he must also prepare. The enemy mage sees her magic enveloping the bone dragon, recognizing the hand signs for Endless Freeze. He scoffs, claiming the spell is useless against him, but then he realizes she's planning something far more powerful. Tia unleashes her ultimate technique, Absolute Zero. This spell is unlike any other, as Shui calls out to a soldier named Dolores, asking if she's ready. A cloud of dust erupts from the ground below, and the soldier who had argued with Shui appears mission complete. The enemy mage stares in shock, realizing his targets are still alive. The soldier, Dolores, stares in disbelief, admitting they'd all be dead without Shui's help. As the army prepares for the third level's portal, Shui calls out to Dolores with a plan, handing him a paper with a complex formation spell. Dolores questions how a swordsman could know about magic, but Shui reveals the next boss is a powerful fire mage. He explains the formation will absorb the enemy's fire, but first, they must cast a defensive spell as a decoy. The plan is to feign defeat after a massive attack, waiting for the boss to lower his guard, then activate the true formation to absorb his power. Dolores is stunned by Shui's incredible foresight. He turns to ask more, but Shui is already gone. High above, the bone dragon unleashes a purple blast, which collides with the mage's wall of fire on the ground. Dolores shouts the signal to his team, and the mages spring into action. They reveal a massive fire core, forged from the absorbed magic, and Dolores yells for Shui to catch it. He hurls the glowing crystal towards the dragon, which Shui catches effortlessly. He places the core on Tia, explaining it will protect her from his own Absolute Zero spell. She stares, shocked that he has a counter for everything, as the fire core flares with protective energy. The robed mage rages, realizing his own power is being used against him. Purple energy collides with the fiery blast, as the soldiers celebrate the mage's weakening power. But Shui senses something is wrong, an ability is missing. The magical beam struggle continues across the chasm, and the god of fire's disciple curses his luck. Below, the soldiers cry out for his death, while Tia's eyes burn with purple light, ready to fight. A sudden anxiety grips Shui, a feeling of dread. He remembers this is a story, and the trials are never easy. He wonders which of the boss's original powers will return. Just as the mage summons his secret weapon, Little Chirpy. A monstrous, sharp-toothed beast erupts from the flames, and Shui stares in horror, knowing this shouldn't be possible. A flashback reveals the god of fire as a boy, finding a magical egg, begging his friend, the god of ice, to keep his new pet a secret. But the god of ice was too rigid, reporting him to their master. The Grand Master ordered the creature released into the wild, so the god of fire secretly brought it food every week. A faint sound echoes through the woods. As the young mage calls out for his pet, a worried look on his face. He finds the creature weak and alone, his guilt turning to hatred. But the god of ice's betrayal wasn't just about duty. It was fueled by a deep, smiling jealousy. He was the Grand Master's favorite student, almost like a son. The flashback reveals a grim isolation room where the young god of fire entertained his secret pet, while the god of ice watched from behind bars, jealous of the one thing he never had, freedom. Suddenly, the story breaks the fourth wall, with the author admitting they were scolded for this backstory as the scene shifts to someone holding a phone. It's Shuei, watching the comic's plot change in real time. The author's note explains deleting the backstory would be boring, insisting the readers deserve the complete story. Back in the canyon, the monstrous beast roars at the bone dragon, just as Tia's ice spell slams into the enemy mage, knocking him to the ground, complaining about the cold. But his pet unleashes its own power, charging an energy blast and firing a devastating beam of light across the chasm. The impact throws Shuei and Tia from the bone dragon's back, sending them hurtling directly towards the panicked mage. They crash into the cliffside in a massive explosion, leaving them stunned and vulnerable on the ground. The enemy mage recovers, erupting in flames and shouting for their death. Tia rises, glowing with purple energy, vowing to freeze him for good, as Dolores rallies the soldiers for an all-out attack. But Shuei suddenly screams for them to wait, a desperate command for everyone to stop, warning them that changing history will trigger a butterfly effect. Shuei realizes the story has been altered. Little Chirpy's survival changes the entire narrative, meaning the gods of fire and ice aren't who he thought they were. He sees a chance for redemption and yells for Tia to stop her attack. She turns back in anger, questioning his command. As the enemy mage wonders what Shuei is planning, Shuei calmly turns to Tia, needing to ask her something important, questioning if her master ever spoke of his regrets. She demands to know why, but he just asks for the truth. Tia's eyes widen as a memory surfaces, a time when she secretly kept a monster as a pet, until her master discovered it and took it away. Determined, she snuck to his office to retrieve it. But what she saw through the door stopped her cold. Her master was secretly feeding the little creature. She burst in, accusing him of hypocrisy. The robed mage laughs, demanding to know the rest of the story. In the memory, the god of ice begins to explain his actions, confessing he once betrayed a classmate out of jealousy, getting his friend's pet released into the wild. Racked with guilt, he secretly watched over the creature, protecting it. Tia is stunned, finally understanding the truth that her master was talking about the god of fire's pet. The mage realizes she was telling the truth, wondering why his old friend hid this. Shuei smiles, telling him he should already know the answer. The robed mage agrees the god of ice was never direct, but Shuei says that's a matter for the god of fire to decide, suddenly losing his will to fight any longer. Dolores is baffled by the sudden surrender, but his comrade is just relieved they avoided fighting the monster as a massive black door rumbles into view. The mage explains the black door represents death itself, then suddenly places a fiery object on Tia's chest, a fire spirit that will burn as long as he lives, a final act to repay his debt for Chirpy's life.